Most horror stories start with some cliché, a haunted house, a possessed doll, or an abandoned asylum. But this story is different. This story happened to me, and I swear on everything I love, it's real. Back in 2017, I was living alone in a small apartment in Chicago. It wasn't anything fancy, just a one-bedroom on the third floor of an older building. The rent was cheap, and as a recent college graduate drowning in student loans, cheap was all that mattered. The place had character, sure, but it also had creaky floors, flickering lights, and vents that sometimes whistled at night when the wind picked up. I never thought much of it, not until I started hearing noises that didn't belong to me. It started subtly, a faint scratching sound coming from the vents. I assumed it was a rat, or maybe even a raccoon that had somehow gotten into the ducts. The landlord was a typical slumlord who only fixed things when absolutely necessary, so I decided to ignore it. But then, one night, I woke up to a whisper. It wasn't coming from outside my window. It wasn't coming from my dreams. It was coming from the vent. At first, I thought I imagined it. Half asleep, I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, listening. A few seconds passed, silence. Then, just as I was about to drift back to sleep, I heard it again. A whisper, faint, breathy. "Hello?" I shot up in bed, my blood running cold. I stared at the vent above my closet. The metal slats cast long shadows across the wall in the dim light of my bedside lamp. My rational mind screamed that I was imagining things. But deep down, something inside me knew better. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I convinced myself that it had been a dream, a trick of exhaustion. But as the days passed, the noises continued. Sometimes it was scratching. Sometimes it was the soft sound of breathing. And sometimes, when the apartment was perfectly silent, I swore I heard my name. Lena. It was always just a whisper, just enough to make my skin crawl. I told my friends about it, but they laughed it off. "It's probably just an old building settling," my best friend Claire said. "Or maybe you've got mice." I wanted to believe her. I really did. Then, one night, I came home late from work. I was exhausted, tossing my keys on the counter when I noticed something strange. My closet door was slightly ajar. I never left it open. A chill ran down my spine as I approached it. With a shaky breath, I grabbed a flashlight and slowly pushed the door open. My clothes hung still. Everything looked normal, except for one thing. The vent cover inside my closet was missing. I stood frozen, my flashlight beam shaking. The vent opening gaped like a black hole. The metal cover was on the floor, a few screws scattered beside it. My stomach turned. I wasn't crazy. Something or someone had removed that vent cover. I forced myself to move closer, my hands trembling as I aimed the flashlight into the duct. The beam stretched into the darkness, illuminating dust-covered metal. For a second, I saw nothing. Then, at the very edge of the light, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A pair of eyes. Wide, unblinking, staring right at me. I stumbled back, dropping the flashlight. My chest seized with terror as I scrambled for my phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers. "There's someone in my vents," I gasped to the dispatcher. "There's someone in my apartment." The operator tried to keep me calm, but I could barely hear her over the pounding of my heart. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and backed into a corner, eyes locked on the closet, waiting, dreading, the moment something crawled out. The police arrived in minutes, though it felt like an eternity. They stormed in, weapons drawn, sweeping through the apartment. And then they found him. A man. He was curled inside the air ducts, filthy, emaciated. His skin stretched tight over sharp cheekbones, his eyes sunken and wild. He was wearing clothes that weren't his, weren't mine either. A collection of things lay around him: wrappers, a tattered blanket, a small knife, and a notebook. When the police pulled him out, he didn't resist. He just smiled at me, a slow, eerie grin that sent shivers through my entire body. One officer opened the notebook, flipping through the pages. His face darkened as he turned to me. "Miss, you need to see this." I didn't want to, but I forced myself to look. The pages were filled with notes, detailed notes, about me. What time I woke up, what I ate for breakfast, what I wore, when I left, when I returned. The last page was the worst. It read, "She doesn't know I watch her sleep." They arrested him that night. Turns out he had been living in the building's ventilation system for months, sneaking into my apartment through the vents when I wasn't home, watching me, whispering to me. The police never figured out how he got in initially. He had no ID, no record. He was just there. For weeks after, I couldn't sleep. The idea that he had been watching me, had been in my home, made my skin crawl. I moved out as soon as I could, leaving that nightmare behind. Or so I thought. Because sometimes, even now when I'm alone at night, I swear I still hear it. A whisper in the vents, calling my name. If you enjoyed this bone-chilling tale, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Haunted Chronicles for more terrifying stories that will keep you up at night. Share this video with your bravest friends, if they dare, and let us know in the comments. Have you ever encountered a shadowy figure? Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Until next time, stay safe. And remember, the shadows are always watching.